Oh, we can just take the note from Shilpi when to start, when to begin. Once other guests have joined, I think we shall begin.
Yes, ma'am. So let us wait for others to join. So, Dr. Shilpi, yes, Dr. Shilpi,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
can we, yeah, shall we start now?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay. So, ma'am, shall we start?
Check the YouTube link live. Tushar?
Yes, ma'am. It's live now.
Yeah, no. It is live. Now we can begin.
Okay. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and namaskar to one all present here. I, Dr. Indu Gupta, on behalf of Dayasi Evening College, University of Delhi, welcome you all to International Environment Summit 2022 on Sustainable Development Goals 13, Impact of Climate Change and How to Combat It. Before we start the summit, I request you all to pray for peace and harmony in the world. As said by Stephen Hawking, one can see from space how the human race has changed the earth. Nearly all of the available land has been cleared of forests and is now used for agriculture or urban development. The polar ice caps are shrinking and the desert areas are increasing. At night, the earth is no longer dark, but large areas are lit up. Planet is reaching a critical limit, but human demands and expectations are ever increasing. We can't continue to pollute the atmosphere, poison the ocean, and exhaust the land because there isn't any more available. And also, there is no planet B for all of us. So, for addressing this alarming issue today, we are collaborating with Saksham Society Jaipur, which is a world record holder NGO. The main objective of Saksham is to provide education to underprivileged, family welfare, and health education, and ensuring a better environment for all of us. Currently, they are mainly working in three main domains: education, family planning, and health education. Now, I would like to welcome our esteemed guests from various parts of the world: Dr. Ulrich Buck from Germany. Namaskar, sir. Dr. Jyotsna Jain from India, Dr. Sadananda Podal from Nepal, and Global Icon Ambassador Smailu Mukta from USA. I would also like to welcome our principal sir, Professor Dr. Pawan Kumar Sharma, and Mr. Rajendra Kumar Singh, President of Saksham Society. Also, I would like to express my gratitude to all the faculty members, convener of the program, Professor Dr. Poonam Gupta, Dr. Shilpi Chauhan, Global Goodwill Ambassador and Secretary of Saksham Society, and all the attendees who have joined this session. Before we proceed, I would like to request you all to maintain a sense of decorum during the session. If you are having any trouble joining us, you may watch us live on YouTube. The link has been provided in the chat box. Now let us do the Saraswati Vandana with Sagar from Team Comhub and Team Bishop of our college. Now Vedika, please start the Saraswati Vandana.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hello, Jyotsna ma'am.
सरस्वती जागे दे माँ सरस्वती जागे दे ज्ञान मुदरी से ज्ञान मुदरी से वीणा पानी हार दे हार दे हार दे माँ सरस्वती जागे दे माँ सरस्वती जागे दे सूर्य ब्रह्म शिव विष्णु गजानन जिन चरणों को सेवते हे सूर्य ब्रह्म शिव विष्णु गजानन जिन चरणों को सेवते हम शिशु हैं अज्ञानी माता इन चरणों का प्यार दे वीणा पानी तार दे तार दे तार दे माँ सरस्वती तार दे माँ सरस्वती तार दे
Thank you, Sagar, for such a lovely Saraswati Vandana. Now I request Dr. Shilpi Chauhan to give introduction of all the esteemed speakers for today's summit. Dr. Chauhan has 12 years experience of administration and management. He has published around 32 research papers and 7 books and various articles on different social problems at national and international level in magazines and journals. Over to you, Dr. Shilpi.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me. On behalf of Section Society, I would like to introduce some speakers and our international guests also. I, Dr. Kulpi Chauhan, Secretary of Section Society. So, before not wasting any time, so first I would like to introduce about our international guest, and this is Smiley Mukta Ghoshal. Actually, she will be joining us after 1 hour. So, I would like to introduce about her. So, this is Smiley Mukta Ghoshal from USA, well known global icon, ambassador, world record holder with multiple global awards as Green Initiative leader and world record holder. She is a winner of multiple awards like Goodwill Ambassador, Positive Role Model, Top Woman Entrepreneur, 100 Inspirational Women Awards, Global Glory Icon, Best Green Initiative leader, Top Woman in Girls, Women's World Record, International Woman Icon. As a name, she is a humanitarian also and Global Peace Award as well. So I welcome you, ma'am. Now I would like to introduce about our speaker, Dr. Ulrich Spark, is assistant professor in Constance University, teaching logic and methodology of science to students of different faculties. Business consultant from 1993. Since 1980, coordinating research on homotherapy, in the beginning mainly in Eastern European countries like Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Yugoslavia, etc. Since a couple of years also in India, here cooperation with different universities like Palapur Agriculture University, Kanpur Agriculture University, Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Koti, Dharwad University, IIT Kharagpur, Ferguson College, Pune, Vivekananda University, Bangalore, North Maharashtra University, Pantnagar Agriculture University, gave more than 150 talks, invited lectures and keynote addresses at universities and in national and international conferences. He has multiple publications like bringing home organic farming into the mainstream of Indian agricultural system, the energy field of Agnihotra, effect of Agnihotra on microorganisms, effect of Agnihotra ash and on drug resistant manual suggested experiments with Agnihotra, global COVID-19 and Agnihotra, impact of HOMA, organic farming in mitigating soil, water and other environmental stresses. Agnihotra as an inexpensive method to treat HIV/AIDS and many more. So heartily welcome Dr. Joshna Jain, Assistant Professor, former head, Department of Biotechnology, former faculty in Department, expert in immunology, molecular biology and environmental science, doctorate in molecular biology, experience of 19 years of teaching UG and PG students, author of 6 books and more than 25 journals of national and international review, convener and co-coordinator of committees including examination, NAS, etc. Have been in editorial board of various journals and in expert panels of numerous workshops and seminars and conferences. Recipient of 2 awards for excellence in teaching and 1 in social activism. She is associated with numerous environmental and social forums like Corsi, Supal, etc. Welcome, ma'am, in this great event. Now, I would like to introduce about our third and last speaker, Mr. Khadananda Podal. Actually, he will be joining us around 8 p.m. So he is a conservation biologist from Nepal, works for Bird Conservation Nepal as Program Development Manager. He has more than 12 years of experience in managing species recovery projects and has written numerous scientific papers in well-known journals. So I heartily welcome to all the speakers and our international guests in this great event. So before not wasting any time, I would like to invite you again, Indu ma'am, to continue this session. Over to you, ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shilpi, and namaskar again to all the speakers. We all are very proud. We are feeling very proud to have you all here on this platform. So, to have your expert opinion. Our principal sir has also joined. So I welcome principal sir, or I request principal sir to say few words. Yes, over to principal sir.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
At the very outset, I welcome all the guests who are going to address us, this evening. Dr. Ulrich Berg, Dr. Jyotsna Jain, Dr. Khadananda Podal, or it should be pronounced like Podial, Khadananda Podial, and of course the last one, Smile Mukta, who is also the global icon ambassador. The topic which has been chosen today is relevant not only for academic discussion, but all of us know that our sustainability is the most important on this planet. And especially as all of us know that the climate has been changing, global warming has already taken place, and we come to know that as a result, the productivity of the crops, as well as the living conditions, even the water scarcity and so many things have already started happening. But since today the topic which is going to be covered is Sustainable Development Goal 13. Of course, I am yet to know, because I am not aware that which one is the known as the Sustainable Goal Development Goal 13. And of course, yes, it is true that we have to cover the climate change. That is the most important aspect. It is the important aspect, and the speakers who have been chosen are the experts in this area. I am really hopeful. I am hopeful, and I am also grateful to them that they have spared time for our college. And this program is also being sponsored, or it is being organized in coordination with Saksam Society Jaipur. But this area is a very relevant area, and I can see that so many of our young students have already joined, and with them, if we are in a position to learn about it, because the first part is the learning, then only we can think that something else will be taken, will be implemented. I am really hopeful that the speakers will enlighten us that how to proceed further, especially those who among us, because we live in Delhi and we are aware that the summer is approaching and what kind of climate we are going to face. So no one requires to be told or educated about the rising temperatures, rising climate, and the dangers which we are going to. I welcome all the speakers. I am especially thankful to our organizers and all the students who have joined it for a late evening program, or it is going to be a program which will be over by late evening. And once again, I thank and on behalf of the college as well as my personal behalf, I feel obliged that they have taken this responsibility to share their thoughts and some of the actionable, doable programs to mitigate the dangers which we are supposed to face very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind sir. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Ulrich Berg, Founder Director of German Institute of Homotherapy, to share his valuable experiences with us. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Again, good evening to everybody in India. Good afternoon and so on to others. First I want to thank the organizers from Saksham Society and the college, the Al Singh College, for inviting me to this conference. And especially to Dr. Shilpi, who was in contact with me always. Thanks also for the introduction, Dr. Indu Gupta. And let us start. By the way, congratulations to all organizers. That is one of the very rare occasions when time is really kept correctly. Now we are even a little bit before the time, which normally does not happen. So that's a really good thing. Now, do you see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I'm talking about Agnihotra and Toma farming, tools for sustainable development on planet Earth. And that is me. Dr. Pavan Sharma, the principal, already has mentioned these sustainable, global sustainable goals, which are very important, and now all humanity has to work for that. These are 15 goals, and I can't talk about everything. So I will concentrate on the first 3 goals, which are no poverty, zero hunger, and good health and well-being for everybody. These 3 goals will also have an effect on the other sustainable development goals. So it's not that the effects stop after these 3 goals, which I'm talking about. So when we talk about sustainable development, in the past, agriculture has not have led to a severe pollution of the atmosphere, water resources, and the soil. A depletion of the soil. With soil health, according to data from FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, they say that already 1/3 of the world soil has degraded. And then they say, unless new approaches are adopted, the global amount of arable and productive land per person in 2050 will be only a quarter of the level in 1960, and that will be just not enough to feed all these growing number of people. Then let's look at air pollution. The leaves are damaged, and that makes plants more vulnerable to pests and diseases, and that leads to a reduced photosynthesis, and then we have less growth, and the yield goes down, by 5 to 20%, according to recent studies, just because of air pollution. And these facts make it clear that we cannot continue like that. We need alternative ways of farming. High amount of chemicals in farming, so organic farming seems to be the only way out. But with organic farming, there's the apprehension that when we move from conventional to organic farming, there will be a drop in yield because the number of people increasing and the agricultural area cannot be extended. So we need some other solution, and one such solution is home organic farming. Home organic farming comes from Vedic knowledge, and by the way, making use of this traditional was already suggested in the Convention of Biological Diversity, also known as Rio Convention, which was in Brazil decades ago. So with home organic farming, there will be no drop in yield, and yields are even higher than with conventional farming. This you can see here was a series of experiments. It was a series of 4 MSc which have been done at the Dharwad Agricultural University in Tamil Nadu, and they compared Homa farming with non-Homa different crops: soybeans, cabbage, tomatoes, and okra. So each was one MSc thesis. And you see here, there was a decrease with Homa in all the different parameters which you can have for yield, like with soybeans, the total biomass per plant, the straw yield, grain yield, 100 seeds per weight, 100 seeds weight, no-till count per plant, no-till dry weight per plant, and so on. All the 4 crops, the yield was higher with Homa farming as compared to conventional farming. So it is possible to move from conventional agricultural farming, chemical farming, to Homa organic farming, and to even have better yields, less pests and diseases, and to even improve the health of the farmers. So how does it work, and why is it so beneficial for the growth of plants, this method? The basic tool of Homa organic farming is Agnihotra. It's a simple fire done in a copper pyramid according to the biorhythm of sunrise and sunset. It comes from Vedic knowledge. And you see here, you see the fire. It's a simple process. And what you need is, besides this small copper pyramid of fixed size and shape, you need some dried cow dung. Make sure that's pure cow dung. It should not be mixed with any other dung like buffalo dung and so on. It has to be pure cow dung. Then you need some pure cow ski. Again, the same thing. It has to be pure, not mixed with any other ski. Then some unbroken and unpolished pieces of rice grains. Then what else do you need is Sanskrit mantras. Mantras are except vibration, and the timetable of sunrise and sunset. Why this vibration, why these mantras, and why the timetable of sunrise, sunset? In ancient knowledge, it said that at sunrise, the many fires, electricities, ethers, and more subtle energies come all the way from the sun to the planet Earth, where the sun appears to rise. And this flow of energies has a subtle music in it, and the quintessential sound of that music, time, and explains 2 things. First, why do we have to follow the exact timings? Because this flood of energy is there only for a very short time then. And second, why these mantras? Because then we have some kind of resonance effect. And interesting, when I saw this slide from an American astrophysicist, he says basically the same thing. He says at sunrise, million ampere currents heading towards the Earth from the sun, and at sunset, they are sent out again. So modern science has confirmed that. The procedure is simple. You start the fire a couple of minutes before the exact time of sunrise sunset. Then you prepare some grains of unbroken pieces of some heat and have these in the left hand or in some copper dish, as you see here on the photo. And then there are two mantras, and there's swaha in each of these mantras. And after swaha, you add one portion of rice mixed with ghee to the fire. So it is like that. In the morning, Suryaya swaha, Suryaya idam namama, Prajapataye swaha, Prajapataye idam namama. And that is morning Agnyota. In the evening, mantras are very similar. Agnaye swaha, Agnaye idam namama, Prajapataye swaha, Prajapataye idam namama. So that is the whole process. It takes just 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, 5 or 10 minutes in the evening. Very simple. This month, that's a very simple thing, but very powerful. And what happens? It is said that when you perform Agnihotra, then a channel is created through all the atmosphere, and life energy, prana energy, which lies above this our atmosphere, comes down through this channel and creates an aura energy field around all plants nearby. This is why these the plants there get nutrition, they get disease resistant, they get stronger. And when the flame dies, this energy comes and is collected in the Agnihotra ash. This is why the Agnihotra ash has healing properties. And now what happens when you perform Agnihotra? Agnihotra purifies our environment, atmosphere, water resources, and soil, and thus brings all nature back to harmony. Let us see some of the effects. First, the atmosphere. What most people are not aware of is that the atmosphere is important for plants because they get more than 75% of the nutrition through the atmosphere. Normally, farmers just concentrate on soil, on NPK and so on, but most of the nutrition plants get through the atmosphere. And if you make the atmosphere more nutritious and fragrant by aromatherapy, then a protective coating comes on plants, and diseases, fungi, pests, and so on do not thrive. And the plant's capacity to breathe increases, and the cooking to death due to atmospheric toxins are eliminated. Now something happens. It is stuck some. Oh. I think I have to.
I think so coming. He will rejoin us soon.
So, sorry. That was not intended. But okay, I'm back. So you see the presentation? Hello? You see the
Yes,
presentation?
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Very good, thank you. So, what happens if you perform Agnihotra? That was one simple experiment we did in different places, testing the microbial load, say 10 minutes before Agnihotra, kept open for 10 minutes, and then closed preparation. And the same thing was after Agnihotra. You see, and has been replicated in many places also. Then another experiment which has been done at North Maharashtra University some years ago was to check the effect of water on chemical and physical pollution. Chemical pollution is mainly X and X. Physical pollution is particulate matter. And there's smoke, which increases a little bit production of a. In the end, the long run, there's a lot, approximately 40 to 30 to 40% in all the parameters, X, NOx, and particulate matter. So Agnihotra purifies the atmosphere pollution, the bacteria, and so on, but also from chemical and physical pollution, which is very important, as we have seen, that plant pollution has the effect on water resources. One experiment was done in Pune, and it was replicated 10 times. What they did is they took water from a very polluted river in Pune and poured this water through a cylinder which was filled with Agnihotra ash. So the polluted water was poured there, and then it was again taken, caught in at the bottom, and then it was compared, the water before and after. And you see here there was a reduction in all the parameters like conductivity, total solid content, and so on, and especially the microbial count. You saw a reduction of all these microbes between 93 and 98%, depending on the method how they measured that. So from really bad polluted water, they got drinking water quality. Then we have one result from Australia. Some people there, they dug a bore well and they got water, which was, they were quite happy about that, but they tested the water and the water was highly saline and alkaline. pH was 9.5, salinity was 1150 parts per million. So that water, you couldn't give the plant anything. So what they did, they performed Agnihotra next to the bore well and then added Agnihotra ash once a week. And after 6 months, this water, which was highly saline and alkaline at the beginning, turned into drinking water quality with pH 7.9 from 9.5 and salinity 720 from 1150. So now they had drinking water there. The soil, one thing is often we forget about the importance of soil, but there's one old Sanskrit text written more than 3,500 years ago, and that says, upon this handful of soil, our survival depends. husband it, and it will throw our food, our fuel, and our shelter, and then die, taking humanity with it. And according to the Organization of Nations, this has happened, and already now 1/3 of the world's soil has been degraded. And they say, so we have to do something. The soil has to be rejuvenated first by homotherapy, and it has to be rejuvenated from the level of viruses, bacteria, fungi, algae, and so on. And in this way, a healthy microflora and microfauna is created. And some results of research which was done, for example, phosphate. Phosphate is one of the major nutrients. You have that in the NPK formula. And normally there is enough phosphate in soil. But only when the first scientist in US, Dr. Tung Ming Lai, he examined the soil and found out the percentage of water-soluble phosphate. And then he added Agnihotra ash and tested the soil for water-soluble phosphate. And he found an increase 2, 3 times, 4 times of water-soluble phosphate when you added Agnihotra ash. So there was one agricultural research institute in Germany. They saw these results, they thought that's interesting, and they replicated the test and found out the same thing, that water-soluble phosphorus increases when you add Agnihotra ash. Now, the question, how come? What increases the percentage of water-soluble phosphate in soil? So, hypothesis, phosphorus solubilizing bacteria are responsible for this increase in plant-available phosphorus. This hypothesis has now been confirmed. In some experiment done at Gartner College in Ratnagiri, they added Agnihotra ash 1% to soil and found out that this bacteria by 100 times, slice by 1,000 times. And at the same time, the flora was controlled by adding Agnihotra ash to soil. Now, there were other references, like the SEA, Central Institute of Agriculture in Lucknow, and genes with Agnihotra ash and no growth at all. He compared it all, burn the increases for Agnihotra, cow dung, some ghee, a little bit of rice. But we don't do it at the exact time of sunrise, sunset. We don't utter the mantras. We don't have the pyramid shape of the copper vessel. We use that control has also, but not at all the effect like Agnihotra ash. So the size shape of the pyramid, the cow dung, cow ghee. And then he also examined the growth of beneficial microbes. That was one experiment done in Unnao, which is in UP between Kanpur and there planted wheat in 3 different plots, and one with chemicals, one with vermicompost, one with vermicompost and the soil pH was tested the harvest and that was the pH was 9.86, and with agrochemicals the pH did not change. If you just used organic farming with vermicompost, the pH came down a little bit from 9.86 to 9.06, which is already quite a good result. But if you used organic farming with vermicompost plus Agnihota ash, the pH came down to 7.67, which is a reduction of more than 2 points just in one season. So that is a great result by just adding Agnihota ash. And also on that plot with Agnihota ash, potash and phosphorus were more abundant. Then you could say, okay, you perform Agnihota and add Agnihota ash, pH comes down, but it's not like that. There was one farm, there still is this farm, they had very acidic soil. The pH was 4.4. And the government agricultural engineers who came examined the soil and they said, no, forget about farming or gardening there, nothing will grow. And in spite of this advice, these people there still tried with Agnihota ash, and with compost. And then it was pH, which was around 7. Now, and you see that there are more than 800 million of hectares of sodic soil and approximately 180 million hectares of acidic soil worldwide. That is really a lot. And if these lands could be reclaimed and made productive again, that would help a lot to increase agricultural production and feed a growing number of people. So why not start such a small project on either acidic or sodic soil or both? And the investment for such a trial is manageable, but the possible gain is huge considering all the areas which could be made productive. Then let us look at the effect of Agnihota on plants. That is a very simple experiment which everybody can do in every college. Even on school level, it can be done. It has also been done. What you do is you take a petri dish or any plate, put some tissue, then add some seeds. You have to do, in a pot. And then what you do is you water one of the dishes with tap water, one of the dishes you add water with water where you added control ash, and one where you added Agnihota ash. And you see the big difference. Left side is just tap water. In the middle, it is water plus control ash. And we know that any ash has some nutrients. And we want to be fair in scientific experiments. And we want to see what is actually the effect of Agnihotra and not just the effect of adding some ash. So we use this control ash also. As I said, we burn the substances, cow dung, ghee, some rice, but we don't do it at the time of sunrise, sunset. We don't use the mantras, and we don't use this pyramid-shaped vessel, some other copper vessel. And you see, with Agnihotra ash, there's far the best effect, and that has been replicated a lot, and measuring root length, shoot length, and so on. Now, that was another experiment comparing root length, shoot length with in germination process where no ash was added, but just plants. Some plants were kept in Agnihotra atmosphere, and the results are shown in the red bars. And some plants are kept outside of Agnihotra atmosphere. So you see a big difference. Plants in Agnihotra atmosphere sitting next to the fire or in the room where Agnihotra is performed, they grow better, root length is more, shoot length is more, as compared to those which are away from that. But I have to say that experiment was not done totally correct, because what they did is they had in one room, they had Agnihotra and the germination of seeds with Agnihotra, and the other room, no Agnihotra. But the effect of Agnihotra goes through these walls also. The effect is less, but it's still there. So you should have a larger distance between these two experiments, and then I'm sure the difference between these two results would be even higher. Now, we have had a lot of research done in different agricultural universities, like Palampur University, Coimbatore, the UTI branch, and Dharwad, and so on. And there's a documentation of that, a booklet, which you can request me, and I would send it to you, which was published in 2009. Just a few examples of the UTI results. They compared yield and quality of rose, carnation, gerbera, and then cabbage, potato, and they compared organic farming with Agnihotra, and conventional farming. And the result was higher yields and increased disease resistance with Homa organic farming. Here you see the results, and with organic and Agnihotra, you have the best results in all the different parameters, like fresh flower weight, stalk length, flower diameter, number of flowers, shelf life of flowers. All the best results with Agnihotra. At Palampur Agricultural University, Agnihotra ash was compared with other organic farmers, and they tested it on lemongrass and Tagetes minuta, and the quality was increased, oil content increased, and also the disease resistance. I mentioned before, at Dharwad Agricultural University, they had 4 MSc theses, and they tested 4 crops: tomatoes, cabbage, soybeans, and okra, and in different parameters, and yield, pest and diseases, quality, and nutrient content. I already showed you the slide about the yield. Yield went up in all the 4 crops. Diseases were reduced again in all the 4 crops by 20, 30, 40%. Here you see soybeans, okra. No, there was a decrease in disease and pests in all the 4 crops. And the nutrient content of plants, that is also something very important, because studies have shown a decline of nutrient content of plants. That is mainly due to the lost soil health which we have, and the atmospheric pollution. And also Ayurvedic doctors have confirmed that the medical potency of plants which they use is declining because of the pollution. So with Homa therapy farming, we can reverse the trend. One result was, from a Homa farm in Karnataka near Belgaum. This farmer grew vanilla, and the vanillin content was 36% by weight. And the lab which tested that, they said that's not possible. So they did the test again because they thought they must have made some mistake. Because what they normally get is a maximum 25 to 28%. They tested again, but again, the content was 36% by weight, vanillin. So that shows some very good quality of the drop. And the nutrient content was also tested in these experiments in Dharwad. And for example, we had 5% increase in protein content, 9.5% increase in oil content in soybeans. In cabbage, the Brix value increased by 39%. In tomatoes, the ascorbic acid was increased by 49%. Okra, the ascorbic acid increased by 0.5 to 35%. Potassium 45 to 98%. So in all the crops, you had an increase. And that's very important because that leads to a more nutritious food, and that's very important for our health. Now, what are the effects of Homa organic farming on biodiversity? Because that is one of the things also we are losing biodiversity on large scale in the last decades. For example, one study in Germany showed that there was an insect population of 75%. And one of the scientists involved said that is an ecological Armageddon. That is really a big problem because it has widespread ramifications to all other areas because so many other species, they are dependent on these insects. So does Agnihota Homa farming help in this area also? And yes, it does. We have seen. This was one test done in Maheshwar, which is in MP, close to Indore. They examined invertebrates on the in the river, and you see the added up quantities, 2 stations upstream of our Homa place, in the middle of the Homa place, and 2 stations downstream. Similar results with butterflies. I just see that my time is over, so I go a little bit faster. The butterflies, just as a photo showing the number of butterflies there, honeybees. So, summing up, Homa organic farming for sustainable future. In this way, we can achieve sustainable development from village level and thus guarantee global food security. And these sustainable development goals, which we mentioned at the beginning, they can be achieved, the 3 goals on which I concentrated. No poverty, because many people can get employed in these small and medium-sized farms, which produce anyway a lot of the food, percentage of the food worldwide. 0 hunger, because enough food can be produced with this method as soil health is improved. And it's getting more productive. And good health and well-being, that is one positive side effect of Homa organic farming. Farmers get healed by this method by just applying this Homa therapy using the Agnihotra ash, because that helps with their health also. And it's very simple, and it's costs nothing. So that is in short. Thank you. If you want to know more, here are my contact informations on these websites. You can read more. If you want to get into touch with me, you can use this email address. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this immensely insightful session. Now I invite Dr. Poonam Gupta, our teacher in charge and convener of the program, to say few words.
Good evening, everyone. I personally thank Dr. Ulrich Bach to be present with us and bringing us such an extensive discussion on Agnihotra and Homa farming. I am just here to sum up his discussion. He started very rightly that the three main sustainability development goals today we have are no good health, and for that agriculture can play a very good role. Currently, we are using non-sustainable agricultural practices which can be improved through organic farming, but to improve the effects, he has suggested very rightly Homa organic farming, which is coming from Vedic knowledge, which we all know. The results of these Homa farming are in increase in yield, less pests and diseases, and the improvement in the health of the farmers. The basic tool of Homa farming is the Agnihotra. Through Agnihotra, he has explained us that a channel is created which brings life energy to the earth. Through this channel, the blessings of sun is bestowed on us. It purifies environment, atmosphere, water, soil, plant, and biodiversity. Through various studies, he has proved that how Agnihotra has improved the water quality, the air quality, increased the fertility of the soil. Then he has also explained us the effects on plants through yield, reduction in the diseases, and increase in the nutrient content of the plant. And lastly, he has also explained through studies the impact on the biodiversity. So, using the invaluable, timeless Vedic knowledge, he has very, rightly brought us the significance of Agnihotra Havana or Homa farming. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now, without wasting any more time, now I request our next speaker of the day, Dr. Jyotsna Jain, Associate Professor of Kanoria PG College, Jaipur, to take over the session. Please, over to you, ma'am. Not audible. You're not audible. Not audible.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Just give me a moment. I'll connect with the other device. So
Okay,
I
ma'am.
think I'll take 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait
yeah.
a second. A very good evening to all. So that my iPad again gets connected. Till then, I would like to thank Dr. Shilpi for giving me this platform and involving me for in this International Environmental Summit. And I would also like to thank Dr. Indu and Principal Dr. Principal Sir Dayal Singh Evening College. Also like to thank Dr. Burke and Dr. Poddle, whom we will connect soon. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the problem. So, as already talked by Dr. Shilpi and Dr. Indu and Dr. Burke, that today we all have gathered here to talk about the SDG 13, which is a very important SDG which connects us to the climate change. And I will be taking up a very important aspect of climate change today, which is connected with the recent happening which had shaken the whole world around, and the emergence of a new virus which we recently had. The whole world got stuck. So today I will be talking breaks. So I hope I make this talk a little relevant to that. So without wasting my time, I would like to just share my screen. Hello. I hope I'm visible and audible.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So I would like to start from the early 1990s, when we all know that since the early 1990s, the changing climate has been a topic which has been very much discussed in all these circles, be it its profound impact on the worldwide economy, ecology. To point out that the human activities, they have been constantly driving the unprecedented changes in the Earth's climate, and this has actually posed significant security along with the economic growth and the natural environment. Now, the impacts of climate change, which are already evident, are geographical as well as health related. So we know that coastal erosions, the droughts and floods, increase in the heat waves and thawing permafrost has already been seen. But in the past a few decades, what we are now acknowledging is the arrival of various diseases which have become a recurrent thing. So today it is very important for us to connect the amount of climate change which is happening of the new occurring very regularly. The stated at the start of the 21st century, and it will be threatening all the aspects of the society. And the government have identified the upward trend, which is happening in global terms, also estimated unprecedented rise of 2 degrees centigrade by an issue and this challenge. Around 175 countries have ratified the Paris Agreement within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And collectively, these countries have now agreed to limit the global average temperature rise to a well below 2 degrees, and also to pursue efforts to limit it to an increase which is not more than 1.5 degrees. So this rising temperature is supposed to be an important aspect for the climate change which we are seeing. Now, what will this climate change bring? Let's have a look on various aspects of the climate change which is happening and which will happen in future if we do not stop making the change occur due to our day-to-day activities and due to the human development. First of all, we know that in the epidemiology of infectious diseases, through changes in the microbial and vector geographical change, so there are new diseases occurring in new areas and with the variants which is happening. Secondly, the climate change is abrupting the aquatic marine food web. Along with the effects are also seen on the plant dynamics and on the agriculture and the natural ecosystems. Along with that, there are also effects which are seen on the general health and metabolism of human beings. Climate change is once again also associated with the shrinking glaciers and the ice caps, and therefore it is altering the availability of fresh water, which should be in abundance on the earth, but which is actually cutting off. It is also contributing to ocean acidification as well as destroying the coral reefs, and it is also disrupting the aquatic ecosystems. When all this is happening, definitely it is leading to making the place uninhabitable for some plants and animals, and therefore it is leading to the extinctions and the redistribution of species. Now, in the presentation today, in the talk today, I will discuss about the effects of this kind of redistribution of species, which is not only giving a threat to the food production, but it is also giving a threat to the various disease outbreaks which we are seeing. Now, this global temperature, the climate change is also affecting the global temperature. It is affecting the rainfall patterns. It is also affecting the rainfall patterns. It is also there are also seen the growing of the extreme weather events, and it is also affecting the incidence and the geographic distribution of most of the flora and fauna, and therefore it is affecting the overall environment around us. We would also like to point out that the climate is interacting with and it is also altering the complex ecological relationships of the food web. And therefore, the climate change has actually entered each and every aspect of the Earth's ecosystem. Now, this climate change is inviting some novel pathogens and also is developing the alien pest, that we will see in the presentation later on. So therefore, not only affecting the infectious diseases occurrence, but it is also changing the transmission patterns of the existing ones. So once this concept was understood by the environmentalists, and it was understood that climate change is a very important aspect which has to be considered, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted by all the United Nations member states in 2015, which provided a blueprint for the peace and prosperity for people and the planet, and now and into the future. And therefore, 17 goals, the 17 SDGs were developed by all the countries which were developed and developing in a global partnership. The motive of all these was to recognize that along with ending poverty, hunger, food scarcity, and other deprivations, it is very important for us to make an approach and to undertake strategies that would improve health and education, that would reduce inequality or economic growth, all while tackling the environment. So the 17 sustainable goals were set up, and all these goals, they had actually together to go hand in hand for sustaining the environment, for sustaining the earth, the environment which is present on the earth. Now, I would like to take you all back into the history, and we should understand, especially listening to Dr. Going back to the Vedic knowledge, we are trying to understand what our ancestors were doing to maintain and to sustain the environment which was around them. So I would like to quote that not only India, but all the other parts of the world were actually working towards the sustainability of the environment. And humans have known that climatic conditions, they can affect the pandemic and epidemic diseases from long before the role of infectious agents. They retreated to hill resorts each summer to avoid malaria, because the climate change and the weather changes and the occurrence of diseases was well understood by them also, in spite of not having any scientific technology which was developed at that time. Now, the South Asians, they learned early that in high summers, strongly curried foods were less likely to cause diarrhea. So this was how small and very little changes in the general lifestyle were conducted to help in battling against the climate change and the weather changes. Now, the climate change during seasons was always a matter of concern, and it was well understood and well managed to avoid any health issues by man in early times. Climate change, and we say that it results into disease outbreaks. So actually, how is it happening? So the climate change would directly affect the disease transmission by shifting their vector's geographical range, and also by increasing the reproductive rate, along with shortening the pathogen's incubation period. When I say this, I mean to say is that any place, any geographical area has its climate, which is well set up. Now, if there is any change in this climate, if there are any change in any of the parameters, then there is a chance that the pathogens, the microorganisms, they like to shift their range, and they transfer themselves from one place to the other. Along with, there is a very high amount of change in the reproductive rates of them, and therefore, the various diseases which were not actually taking place in a particular area and in a particular weather were now available, and they were increasing at a very high rate. Similarly, the climate-related increases in sea surface temperature and the sea level can lead to higher incidence of waterborne diseases and the infections, and the toxin-related illnesses like cholera and shellfish poisoning were also well evident. Now, once the climate of a particular area changes, it is very clear that the place becomes less suitable for the human beings to live and to lead a normal life. So human migrations and the damage to the health infrastructures from the projected increase in the climate variability is very common, leading to tsunamis, is leading to human migration happens. And once the human migration happens, then it indirectly contributes to the disease transmission, which we will be able to see through this picture. Now, in this picture, what I'm trying to explain is that the high temperatures and what happens during the climate change. it directly relates to the changes in the animal and the migration and the life cycles. Then dryers, along with the changing rainfall and the snowfall patterns on the land, which results into less snow and ice because of the thawing permafrost, and therefore leading to the floods. And along with that, the rising sea levels, the damaged corals, and the warmer oceans, they affect the aquatic ecosystem as well. Now, when all this is happening on the land and in the sea and in the water, then definitely there is a change in the plant life cycles. Now, once the plant's life cycle changes, it directly affects the food web and the food chain, and therefore the whole system gets crushed. There is one more picture which explains that the the emission of the greenhouse gases helps actually it results into a high heat waves, the temperature rise, which further results into the sea level rise, which further results into the floods and droughts. And once all this happens, then the carbon dioxide sinks are lost. Now, once the carbon dioxide sinks are lost, then automatically the various ecosystems are affected. Now, once due to this, there is a change in the aquatic and the land ecosystem. There is a change in the life cycles of plants and animals, and therefore, when there is no food to eat, then it leads to malnutrition. And once the body is malnutritioned, it is very susceptible to catch various diseases, and therefore the infectious vector-borne diseases, they come into the action. Now, all this, along with the forced migration and the unsafe sanitation and the health structure, infrastructure damage, further deteriorates the scenario, and the infectious diseases, they very easily start flourishing. Just a second, I think. Okay, so this is again a diagram which tries to explain that the climate change has its impact on the host, the pathogen, and the transmission. And therefore, there is a direct relationship between climate change and the infectious diseases. And we can see that the various factors like temperature, precipitation, humidity, wind and dust, and others, once they all change, they all contribute to the climate change, and we can see how it is related with the infectious diseases in the human society. So there is one more diagram which I put, which helps in explaining that be it natural or be it human caused, if there is a climate change, then it is leading to the various regional weather changes. And once the weather changes, the extreme, they help in increasing the various pollution levels along with the contamination pathways and also the transmission dynamics. And once all this happens, this is directly related to the health effects which are happening, and therefore they have an effect on the infectious diseases which start occurring. Now, despite the various agreements and discussions on the control measures which are happening around the world, across the world, various seminars and conferences happening, but at the same time, we are acknowledging, we are seeing various parasitic and infectious diseases. They're emerging, and they're not only emerging, but they are re-emerging, and they are causing recurrent outbreaks. So an apparent increase in many infections and novel diseases, which the world has recently seen. We know that COVID-19, along with the various kinds of Zika and hantaviruses and the MERS and SARS, which the world has already gone through, these diseases are not only occurring, but they are reoccurring. It's almost the third year the world is still under the grip of COVID-19. So we have to understand and know that what is the reason behind it, and is there any way that we can help in changing the climate? We can help in reducing the climate change and help in the reduction in these diseases occurrence. So today, a combined impact of the rapid demographic, environmental, social, technological, and other changes in our ways of living is very important, and it is well evident. And according to the World Health Organization, there are some data which say that the major vector-borne diseases, they account for about 17% of all the infectious diseases, and they lead to about 7 lakh deaths per year. And the biggest burden of such diseases, they actually fall in the tropical and the subtropical regions, and they disproportionately affect the world's poorest populations because of the malnutrition and because of the very bad, very crashed health infrastructure which is available, which is not available. And but as our planet, it warms, those in the temperate regions and the developed nations, they are also being affected. So gradually we are seeing that earlier these disease outbreaks were related to the malnutrition, they were related to the medical facilities, they were related to the impure water and food which was available. But now we know that as the climate is changing rapidly, the developed nations are also affected by these infectious diseases. Now let's look on the impact of the climate change which is happening on the human health. So we know that in the center are the three important reasons, or I would like to say the three important factors which which we say that the climate is changing, which is the rising temperature, which is on the top of it, along with the weather extremes and the rising sea levels. And these three important factors are actually responsible for the various human health disorders which are happening. Now, I would also like to explain here is that what is the natural way in which the human beings, they have kept these diseases away from them. So there were two very important points. First one was that the human defenses, which usually the microbial disease they rely on, are first of all the advanced immunity, which includes the innate and the adaptive protection of the body. Innate will be our own, and the adaptive will be definitely through the vaccines which we are trying to do. And the second very important thing was endothermy, which creates a thermal restriction zone for many microbes. So it was a well-protected system which was already present in the body, and which was actually helping us to restrict the entry of the various microbes, and therefore was protecting us from the microbial diseases. But given that the microbes, they can adapt to the higher temperatures, there is a concern that this global warming, this rising temperature, this climate change will now select for the microbes which will have a higher heat tolerance that can defeat our endothermy defenses, and it can bring about new infectious diseases. So we have to understand that nature is smarter than us. These tiny microorganisms who are invisible to our eyes, they are much smarter than the human brain, and they are adapting so well with the climate change that they are actually cancelling the various natural ways in which human being and the human body was protecting itself. And the human susceptibility to the infections might be further compounded by the malnutrition. We know that we have already been talking about the areas, the developing nations or the underdeveloped nations, where there is less of food, there is hunger, there is scarcity of good food and water, and therefore malnutrition exists there. So due to the malnutrition and due to the alterations in the human immune system, there is, and also due to the various other reasons like the increased flux of UV radiations and other problems, the body is more susceptible. And above that, the climate is changing, and therefore the endothermy defenses are also decreasing. So that is another big threat to the human protective system, which was earlier present in them. So we can see here that there is a graphical representation which shows that the climate warming, it accelerates the transmission cycle. So the normal, if there is a high temperature, then slowly and gradually what we are seeing is that the pathogens, they are becoming more capable of transmissions, and the thermal tolerance of pathogens is also increasing. So earlier, let me just quote one thing, that when this COVID-19 appeared on the earth, and it started from a certain country which I would not like to name. So it was in India. It was considered that since in India, and especially in hot places like Rajasthan and Gujarat and Delhi, where the summer temperatures they go beyond 45, it was considered that this high temperature will not let this COVID-19 flourish here. But let me tell you that this very important point which has to be pondered upon, that the thermal tolerance of pathogens have increased. COVID-19 did not stop in any of the extreme weathers. It did not stop in high temperatures. It did not stop in less temperatures. So it kept on happening, and the variants kept on coming. So what I'm trying to say is that the climate change is now making the changed climate in a stabilized form. And when that particular climate change and the weather extremes, they start getting stabilized, then the pathogens and the overall, the microorganisms, they also start tolerating it, and they also start flourishing in the same. Now, I would like to mention a study which is University of Toronto, and it was focused largely on the modeling the ecological impacts of climate change and understanding the range expansion on the parasites. So it was understood that the pathogens and their vectors, they are temperature sensitive. And when the temperatures are higher, it is speeding up, and it is completing its life cycles at a very faster rate. So this fast development would mean more generations of parasite per season, and therefore extended season for transmission, which will benefit the pathogen, and more will be affected by these diseases. Now, I would also like to say that the field of infectious diseases is a very important discipline of medicine, and it has to be understood. And because we are seeing that the new diseases and the therapies, they lose their potency resistance. So that a drug is the pathogens, they become very easily resistant towards a certain drug. And the new infectious diseases, they which were not previously known to the medicine, they abruptly emerge from acquisition from another species, which I would like to put some light on the word which is known as species jump, which has been seen recently in terms of certain diseases, that a particular pathogen which was not very comfortable with a species has now jumped from one species to the other, and therefore the species jump is posing a high amount of threat in terms of transmission of the disease. So the opportunistic pathogens, they usually invade the immunosuppressed human beings, and as we have already told, that the climate change is leading to the immunosuppression due to the malnutrition and due to the decreased health facilities, and therefore the opportunistic pathogens, they are now coming in the picture, and they are now taking over the health of the human beings. This is a table which briefly explains that how the environmental changes, not only the weather conditions, but also whenever we change the environment in any form. Now, either it is in form of some change in the infrastructure, or it is some change in the form of habitation or deforestation, or any kind of urbanization, or even urban crowding, we can see that various diseases can emerge due to them, and various opportunistic pathogens are ready to come in the scene the moment there is a change in the environment, there is a change in the climate, there is a change in the weather. We can see that the diseases outbreaks happens, and that is the way that we can get trapped by them. So what can be done? That is an important thing to talk about, to discuss about. So research, that is a very important aspect which has to be now taken care of. And research is under research in terms of the various disease risks, the various changing distribution of the vectors is very important to understand. So there are three things that has to be conducted. Now, when we talk about the knowledge gaps, let me highlight that vector-borne diseases, because lack of data is a major problem. And then, as also about that, insufficient funds and people power the insufficient people power, it also limits the number of diseases that can be studied. Now, once we are less on the data, we are less on the discussion and the study in this aspect, it is very difficult to calculate that what all kind of diseases can come in the future, which has to be studied. Now, we may understand 1,000 pathogens, but of these we only understand for a handful how temperature affects changes in them. And there are thousands of worm parasites alone. And if we add the bacteria and change predictions for the best studied diseases, and we have to take a little knowledge from the past, we need to collect more data. And that's a huge limitation in the understanding of everything which is going on. Secondly, definitely vaccination programs, as we have, as I earlier mentioned, that two things are very important. One is the immunity which we can gain, which is either innate or adapted. And the second was endothermy. So the adaptive immunity can be done through the vaccinations, and this is an investment in strengthening the health system. And it's very important that the surveillance and the control program should be run with all the tracking, with all the prevention, and with all the treatment. And a lot of awareness in the general public is required for the same. And it's very important that we develop and improve the early warning systems, because once the early warning systems are there, then we get a warning for certain diseases, and we can be a little ready for them. And so a designing of the model which can enhance the surveillance system and get us little early information about the pathogenic microbes is very important, and it can provide potentially actionable information which we can help through. Now, the next point should be promoting research, as I've already told, but this is an important point to be discussed, because the point is that the research into the non-human host microbe interactions is also important. To say that the new pathogenic microbes, they can use the virulence strategies that are fundamentally different from those of the known infectious diseases. And the microbes that are currently pathogenic in plants and invertebrates, they might also pose fundamentally different virulence strategies if they adapt to the human host. As the species jump is possible to the environment, they know how to actually flourish. So it's very important that we also put some effort and put some research and put more of the concerns in the non-human hosts also. And the medical research, they need to be justified concerning its value for the human health. And it's worth remembering that the pioneering work into the non-human retrovirus in the decades has allowed rapid progress in the anti-retroviral therapies once HIV was identified. So it's very important for us to also look into the non-human host microbe interactions to help us protect ourselves. The climate change, it will almost bring new infectious diseases, and it will change the epidemiology of many existing diseases. So we have to be ready. We have to go into more of studies, more of research, and more of data collection, and more of proxies, and a lot of concern has to be, a lot of model developments have to be carried out, so that we can at least, not exactly ready, but we can at least be a pre-ready form can be attained in order to help us. And humanity, we know that has confronted some new deadly diseases, and the prior success is no guarantee for the future success. So every new infectious disease brings in it its own set of challenges. So the best insurance against the future threats is continued investment in surveillance, very importantly, the basic research, the antimicrobial therapeutics, and the development of mechanisms of the microbial pathogenesis. I would also like to say towards the end of this talk that analyzing the role of climate in the emergence of human infectious diseases will actually require an interdisciplinary approach and cooperation among not only the biologists and the medical people, but the physicians, the climatologists, the biologists, and also the social scientists, because all it has to be an approach which is coming from all the areas, and therefore we'll be able to help sustain the environment where we are living. And the long-term big picture silver lining is that eventually a destabilized global climate will seek to establish some new dynamic equilibrium. So what is important for us is to keep the carbon ppm, the global warming below the certain levels. And if we are able to do that, we will eventually experience a new stable climate. So stable is, in my understanding, better than the unstable. So whatever loss has happened is happened. But what we can now do, what is the need of the hour, is to make this unstable environment the climate and the civilization, and therefore help the human system. So there are four things. First is the use of geographically based data systems. Second is the integrated modeling. And third is the increased disease surveillance, along with more anticipatory measures from the medical community, which will help us understand the linkages between the climatological and the ecological change, which are actually the determinants of the disease emergence and the redistribution, will ultimately help optimize preventive strategies. So in the end, I would like to say that the World Health Organization predicts that the climate change will result in 250,000 additional deaths per year between 2030 and 2050. But complexity is not an excuse for inaction, and the healthcare community can advocate for strategies to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and therefore to reduce the Earth's rising temperature and mitigate the effects of climate change. SDG number 13, which is climate action, is a very important point which has to be considered very effectively and on a very early note. And on a personal level also, individuals can do their part. So everything does not, all the responsibility does not lie on the politicians, on the environmentalists, and on the medical people, but individuals can do their part by engaging themselves into the energy saving practices. And therefore, the best thing we can do is prevent the further expansion of diseases with the climate change. The most important thing that can be done is to slow down the planet. The most the warming of the climate, the slow down various saving practices that we can very easily follow. It is important that we'll be able to understand the potential impacts, and it is very important that we'll also be able to mitigate the effects of the climate change. So I would like to end the talk with a notion that climate change will finally put us in a very bad condition in terms of living, in terms of eating, in terms of surviving. So it's very important that we are able to practice few small things which are environment friendly, and therefore we can give a better world for our children and for our grandchildren to survive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us on this alarming issue of climate change and the various diseases related with this, and how to reduce that by reducing this global warming. That is, thank you once again. Now, without wasting our time, there is a slight change in the schedule because our international guest, she has to go early because she has a meeting or another session in Bhutan. So, I would like to welcome, or we all are pleased to welcome, Smiley Mukta, Global Icon Ambassador, World Record holder with multiple global awards as Green Initiative Leader, World Book of Records, Goodwill Ambassador, Positive Role Model, Top Woman Entrepreneur, 100 Inspirational Women, Global Glory Icon, Best Green Initiative Leader, Top Woman, Women's World Record, International Women Icon, Best Social Activist, Global Ambassador, to name a few, as the list goes on, with many humanitarian and global peace awards as well. So, we all are pleased to have you, ma'am. So over to you, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, ma'am.
Hello to everyone. It's been really, great pleasure. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be on this platform to meet everyone. Thank you very much for the nice introduction as well. but I would love to put it in a very crisp and short form. As a green initiative leader and a green icon and a green queen, I am a nature lover. And anything relating to nature is definitely be my way. Now, I only see, and that is my work and mission. And as a Go Green passionpreneur, when I turn towards a green icon today on my mission and vision of protecting Mother Earth and creating a sustainable, greener world away from synthetics. I have my own green beauty line, number one natural beauty, which focus on natural goodness. So my main role here is today is how to make a greener world. When we are talking about greener world, but in this fast moving time, we all are in a human race. We are moving away from nature. We are not accepting, we are not respecting nature. And due to what? All this climatic changes, everything, it's a complete imbalance. Now, when we have this imbalance, everything is just going under a turbulence. Why can't we respect nature? Why can't we accept nature has given us everything? Now, in this hard, challenging time, the world is going under a really turbulence. I'm sure everybody is understanding and in a great difficulty. I humbly request everyone, as an international motivational speaker, let's respect two things. What is number one? Is respect human being. What is number two? Number two is respect nature. These are the most important thing in the entire universe, and for which we all are moving. We all are working hard. Every leaders are working hard on this. Believe me, trust me, me as well. We are on a global platform to understand this climatic disasters. World is going under with no humanity. So it's a kind of turmoil. So my only humble request to everyone is, let's protect nature. We can preserve, we can start using, why can't we recycle? There are many ways. I mean, if I start going on, in different topics, it will definitely go for a longer, but I really don't want to make it such a long lesson, but I would like to keep it very, very interactive and informative and meaningful, right? Keeping it crisp and short, right? Okay, so coming back to, how we can preserve and our resources, there are so many ways, and particularly over here in this country, we have seen people wasting a lot. And I'm a person, I am a no in on wastage. Why can't we recycle things? We are ready to trash it, but before trashing, why can't we understand the reaction, what you will have after having those trash? Why can't we look before trashing them? What can we do in order to preserve it? Right? Just a simple example. Early in the morning, we all drink coffee. But sometimes, black coffee I'm talking about. But sometimes what we do is that the little bit left over, spill it out. Have we ever thought we are wasting? Have we ever thought, before spilling it out, what else can I do with it so that I don't waste? It's just draining out. I'm just giving you a simple example. As an skin and hair care expert, there are many advantages. Usage of that coffee, which is left over. I would rather take it and use it on my face or water and put it in the plant. Simple. I'm not wasting. I'm using it. That's just a simple example. simple example by which we can preserve and reduce wastage, because these are all affecting the environment. When we are talking about environmental disasters, this is just an example. I personally practice recycling, using before wasting, because I know the environment is gonna take it. And believe me, trust me, we are all in this universe. The universe doesn't need us, we need. Why can't we be a global? Can't we act responsible to it? Why can't we reduce? Why can't we help? Meaningful. Everything is possible. Just like the possible in the world, and every drop's measure to build a nation. We are trying to work towards making a better future. Standing today, again, it's my mission and vision to create a sustainable, greener world for a better future, no matter what. On the table, through webinars, sessions, whichever way I can do to bring the possibilities to create simple, healthy lifestyle, staying naturally. That's with environment. With that environment, we have to take care. We can't disrespect, because everything is from the nature. We take care of nature. Nature takes care of us. Nature gives us all the positivity, but to that nature, we are not taking care. So it's our simple step we all can do. Let's protect, let's act responsible, stop wasting, utilize the whichever way we can, reduce, because everything has a reaction. So why to go for that reaction? Why can't we take the immediate stepping measures to protect it? So we are all responsible. So let's act responsibly and protect our Mother Earth. Stay healthy, stay happy, because this is our universe. We have to come together and protect and stay healthy. Love nature, respect nature, be thankful to nature. That way we prevent to stay healthy, stay happy, and stay safe. Thank you. This is Smiley, all the way from Dallas. Thank you once again to all the listeners here. And of course, Saksham Foundation for giving me this opportunity to come and meet you all on the floor. Last but not the least, Smiley is just a call away. Feel free to call me. In anybody needs any help, I am always available, because I am on a mission to create a world for a better future. Thank you. And a happy International Women's Day to all the women out here. Stay healthy.
Research Center, Nepal. Yes, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good evening to you all. I would like to thank Saksham Society family, including Dr. Shilpi and Dr. Indu, for organizing this meaningful international summit and providing me an opportunity to share my knowledge on ecological restoration. So I would like to thank previous speakers, Dr. Bork and Dr. Jyotsana, for your very informative sessions on Agnihotra and climate change. Likely, I would like to thank Global Icon Ambassador Ismail Mukta for your very impressive words. So I would like to start my slides here and share some of my knowledge about ecological restoration. So hope my presentation slides is visible to everyone. Please let me know if it is not visible. Uh, so here I would like to start my slides. So I'm Khanananda Paudel. So I work for Bird Conservation Nepal. Before I start ecological restoration, so I would like to explain a little bit about the forests. Forests can be viewed from different lenses. If we see, forest can be seen just as source of timber products, or simply home for indigenous people, or an ecosystem composed of trees, or we can say carbon storage repository. But it's not a very simple thing. It's very complex, and we can say many complexities are there to become a forest. So if you talk about uh, tropical forests are some of the richest, most exciting areas on Earth, and they are home to gigantic trees, colorful birds, and a huge variety of fascinating mammals. And another important fact is that about 80% of the world's documented species can be found in tropical forests, and even though they cover only about 6% of the Earth's land surface. So these tropical forests provide significant local, regional, and global human benefits. And if we talk about people living around this tropical forest, globally, 40% of people who live in tropical forest areas live under USD 1.25 per day. It means that their economic condition is very poor. And if we talk about Asia only, 27% of those people are in Asia only. So those people who are involved in agriculture, they depend on forests for forest products. But those who are not involved in agriculture are engaged in commercial activities such as logging or mining. So if we talk about the degradation of forest, and if we try to protect them from degradation, or like restore some of the forests. So if we talk about that, this biodiversity and ecosystem services are higher in natural regeneration process in comparative to some commercial or big reforestation or assisted natural regeneration, and all other things. So from this slide, we can conclude that natural regeneration is the process which is the ultimate or the best thing to do for the restoration of whole ecosystem. So I will come to the point later as well. So if we talk about this natural regeneration and succession.
Excuse me, sir, for interfering, because your slides are not changing. In case you are changing them.
Oh, okay. I'll try to.
Yeah.
So I will try to again present.
Yes.
Share the slides. Please let me know if you didn't see these slides.
Okay.
So is this visible, or I have to do full screen?
No, visible, sir.
It's visible. Just we have to just check whether the slides are changing when you are changing or not.
Okay.
Yes, now it is.
Thank you. Natural regeneration is the progress regenerate is no threats or stop the disturbance. So let's come to this is assisted natural regeneration. So in regeneration process there are many methods used. Sorry, I have to. So if you talk about regeneration process, there are many methods. For example, many big commercial methods, monoculture, or just like rehabilitation of bigger areas or like that. So if you compare those all methods, so I'm sharing some of the information about comparing those. Assisted natural is just the natural on few interactions are done, two interventions are done to assist natural regeneration process. So here as well, we try to reduce disturbance, reduce competition, facilitate design species in with seeds or seedlings, and native species reforestation. This is kind of reforestation where we prefer native species to grow over there. So there are some reforestation monoculture of exotic tree species are also done, and this is main important objectives of planting this monoculture of exotic trees are for pulp, paper, timber, or other commodities. So let's compare these all kinds of reforestation methods, and there one more method is mixed species plantation. So in restoration process, it says that literature says, and all the researchers and practitioners all over the world says that more the species, better the restoration process. Or so I will come to ecological restoration later. So I'm moving towards that. Means there are some of the methods where people do monoculture, or they do some mixed species plantation to restore forests. Species diversity. Within an ecosystem, diversity helps reduce susceptibility to damage from disturbances such as diseases, pests, and extreme weather events. So this point is about to maintain diversity within the problems are reduced. So in restoration process, we need to focus on maintaining diversity. Some of the fundamentals of tropical forest restoration, which we discussed earlier. The tropical forest is the outcome will be that not exactly. This is not 100% science. So more arts are connected with this process. The selection of species is involved. Tree planting is an active restoration method, but like many complex things needs to be combined in a restoration process. So it also depends on the context. What is the target of restoration? If we have other more objectives. So let's come to ecological restoration. I just try to explain a little bit things about single species restoration, commercial restoration, or simply only the in ecological restoration. The main points we need to be careful is are main points are so whole ecological things need to be regenerated or raised. Plants are not only the biodiversity are restored over there. So this is the process where the recovery of an ecosystem that has been degraded, damaged, or destroyed is done. Mainly, we aim to assist recovery about whole the ecosystem. Ecological restoration doesn't only focus about plants or one species or like that. That's why it will sustain itself structurally and functionally. So later, many models have been come up with ecological restoration are practiced and with many objectives. So mainly it says that in ecological restoration we need to consider conservation and sustainable use. Ecological restoration is linked state of combined continued degradation to one of net positive improvement. So it says that some improvement are sought over there with this ecological restoration, and people researchers are the people who have been practicing the ecological restoration are factors as well. And some of the assumptions are there are many forces which cause degradation are temporary, and that a proportion of habitat loss or declining wildlife populations are reversible. So in these assumptions, ecological restoration is being done. So I'm going towards ending slides. I have 2 more slides now. This 2021-2030 has been declared as UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, and UNEP and FAO are leading its implementation, and all the NGO, government agencies, government organizations, non-government organizations, universities all over the world are requested to join this UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. So this mainly focus radical intersection of methods that convert, enhance, and implement biodiversity. Aim of this system is to conserve whole component in the ecosystem, not only some important or some declining this biodiversity. So we can start from just a little, for example, 100 kilometer square to 1,000 kilometers square. So let's start restoration from our place. So thank you very much for listening. I would like to conclude my talk here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this immensely insightful session. We all pray Rudra to say a few words and propose vote of thanks. Over to you, Sarthak.
Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful from their busy schedule. Dr. Jyotsna, specifically Mr. Rajendra Kumar Singh, President Society, Professor Pavan Kumar Sharma, Principal, Dayal Singh Evening College, Professor Poonam Gupta, Academic Convener, Dayal Singh Evening College, Dr. Indu Gupta, all the student coordinators, all the other faculty members of the Dayal Singh Evening College, and of course, all our dear students. Sure, dear students. Over to you, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you all once again. Yeah, we are obviously a part of this session and looking forward to more such sessions. So this link for Google feedback form and e-certificate has been uploaded in the chat box, and all of you kindly fill this form and you will get your certificates. And while summing up this this seminar or this summit, I would like to say we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. So we all have to keep it safe and sound for them. Yes. Thank you once again. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Josna ma'am. Thank you, Kodal sir. Thank you, Ulrich Bhatt sir. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
sir.
Namaste.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Good night.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much to all the speakers and guests. Thank you so much.
And special thank in the end to Dr. Shilpi and Dr. Poonam ma'am, without whom this event
Would not have been possible.
has happened. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Indu ma'am. Thank you so much once again. Thanks to all. So, e-certificate and feedback link